So for our next few videos, I'm going to be showing you how to factor out quadratic expressions when our a is no longer 1. I'm going to be showing you two methods. I'm going to be showing you the area model backwards, and then I'm going to be showing you splitting the term and grouping in my other Think Aloud. You are going to find which one you like best and work with that one. Just as a reminder, we are dealing with quadratic expressions and polynomials. We have our A, B, and C terms that are just numbers. And as a reminder, in our last Think Aloud, our A value was 1. We are now going to be looking at what happens if our A value is no longer 1. Here is my very first Think Aloud. It says factor out 2x squared plus 13x plus 15. I know that everything has a coefficient, and we are going to be starting the same way that we did in the very last Think Aloud. I want to label it A, B, and C, and I want to start out with my diamond method. My diamond method, as a reminder, that top, I'm going to be multiplying my A times C, and in my bottom, I know it's going to be my B value. Well, A times C, I have 2 times a positive 15, which will just give me a positive 30 back. My B value is just the number positive 13. In order to find out my information on this side, I need to factor out all my possibilities of 30. I know 1 times 30 gives me 30. 2 times 15 gives me 30. 3 times 10 gives me 30. And 6 times 5. Now I want to see what two things add up to give me 13. The first one don't add up to give me 13. The second one do not add up to give me 13. But 3 and 10 add up to give me 13. So these two numbers multiply to give me A times C, and when they are added together, they give me my B value. This is why it works. Normally, we'd be done from here. However, since our A value is 2, that means I have an additional step. If my A value was 1, I would be able to get my factors form in this way. However, since our A value is not 1, I'm going to have to do an extra step. Like I said, I'm going to be showing you how to do the area model backwards. Just as a reminder, the area model is just a rectangle squared, and I'm going to be filling in the information by the expression. This first box right here is going to be the very first term in the expression, 2x squared. This last box over here is my constant, which is this positive 15. In order to fill out the next two boxes, I'm going to go to my diamond method, and I'm going to be grabbing those two numbers, 3 and 10. 3, and I'm going to put an X, and I'm going to put a positive sign on the top because I know it's a positive 3 and a positive 10. The reasoning why I put an X to it, because I know both of these numbers will add up to give me a positive 13x. From here, I need to start working backwards. That means I'm going to be factoring out inside, factoring from the outside. For example, I want to first grab my first binomial. In order to do that, I want to see these two. I want to know what they have in common, meaning what is their greatest common factor. So I want to factor out the number 2, and I want to factor out the number 3. Well, I know 1 times 2, and I know 1 times 3. What do they have in common? Well, I see that they have 1 in common, and that is it. That means I'm going to be factoring out the number 1. And then I want to focus on their x's. I have x squared and I have x. If I have x squared and x, I know I can factor out x. And I'm done finding that first term. Now I want to follow up and find my second term. In order to do that, I want to know what a positive 10 and a 15 have in common. So what is their greatest common factor? So I want to factor out 10 and I want to factor out 15. So numbers that multiply to give me those numbers. I know 1 times 10 will give me 10. 2 times 5 will give me 10. And that is it. Now I want to factor out 15. I know 1 times 15. And then I want to know 3 times 5. So I want to know what they have in common. I see that they have 1 in common, and I also see that they have 5 in common. I want the greatest number they have in common. So I'm going to be taking out a positive 5. Okay, so I know this is my first binomial right here. So 1x plus 5 is my first binomial. I now want to grab my second binomial, and we are going to be working backwards. So I want to know what this is going to be. Let's start with this very first one. In order to get that one, I'm going to be working a little bit backwards. I want to know 2 divided by 1. Well, 2 divided by 1 will just give me 2. And then I'm going to put an x. Just to recap what I did this 2 divided by the 1 that is outside, and I got 2x. To get my next one, my next term over here on the bottom, I'm going to do this 15 divided by the number we just factored out, 5. So 15 divided by 5 does give me a positive 3 back. This is going to be my second binomial, 2x plus 3. And this is going to be my answer. 1x plus 5 and 1 binomial. And my second binomial, 2x plus 3. So what I did is I did the diamond method first. I noticed that I need 3 and 10. Those 3 and 10 are going to be the side parts of my area model. And then from there, I just factored the greatest common factor. Remember, this is just one method using the area models backwards. I'm now going to be showing you how to use grouping in my next Think Loud. So I'm now going to be showing you grouping. I'm using the same problem because I want you to see that I'm able to use either the area model or grouping. It's still going to work. So I'm still factoring out 2x squared plus 13x plus 15. The beginning step does not change. You are still going to be using that diamond method. But since our a value, once again, is not a 1, there is an additional step that we have to take. So I'm going to be showing you how to group. So the way we do grouping is I'm going to grab that first term in our polynomial, which is 2x squared, 2x squared. And then I'm going to be grabbing that 3 and the 10. As a reminder, I grabbed that 10x and I 3x because I did those numbers in our diamond method, and both numbers would add up to give me a positive 13x. Lastly, I want to grab that last number of a positive 15. I'm going to put it right here. I am not done yet. Like I said, this is grouping. I'm going to be splitting our terms in half. So at this moment, I have 4. I want to split it in half. So I have 2 and 2. And to split it, all I did was put parentheses. Except some of my parentheses don't look like parentheses. From here, I want to just focus on my first parentheses. And I want to find the greatest common factor between 2 and 10. So I want to know what is their greatest common factor. So I know 2 numbers that multiply give me 2 is 1 times 2, and that is it. The factors of 10 is 1 times 10, 2 times 5, and that is it. So I want to find the greatest common factor between 2 and 10. So something that I notice that they both have 1 in common and they also have 2 in common. I want the greatest number they have in common, and the greatest number that they have in common is the number 2. Another thing I want to focus on is I realize that they both have x's in them, x squared and x. So I'm going to be factoring out an x. Since I factored out a 2x, I'm going to be working backwards to get the new things inside of my parentheses. I'm going to grab that first. What is 2 divided by 2? Well, that is just going to give me 1x back. And lastly, what is 10 divided by 2? And that is going to give me a positive 5 back. So we just factored out the very first set of parentheses. We are now going to focus on the second set of parentheses, and we're going to do the exact same steps. So I see the number 3 and 15. So I want to know what they have in common. Well, the factors of 3 is just 1 and 3. That's it. The factors of 15 is 1 times 15 and then 3 times 5. Their greatest number that they have in common is the number 3. Although they do have 1 in common, but the number 3 is greater. So I know I'm going to be factoring out just 3. I notice that my 3 also has an x next to it, and this 15 does not. That means I cannot factor out an x. So I'm going to leave it as a positive 3 that I'm going to be factoring out. And then once again, I'm going to be working backwards. I have a positive 3x. I want divided by 3. That should just give me 1x back. Now I'm left with a positive 15, and I want to divide that with my 3 that is outside, and I should get a positive 5 back. I want you to notice at this moment, both of my parentheses have the exact same thing inside it. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Both of my set of my parentheses have the exact same thing inside of it. That is going to be one of my factored forms. This only works if both set of parentheses are exactly the same, but it's only going to be one of my factored binomials. My second set of binomials is going to be what I factored out. For example, I factored out this 2x, and I also factored out this positive 3. And that is going to be my second set of binomials. So once again, my very first set of binomial, which is this 1x plus 5, is what was inside of the parentheses for both cases. And then the second set of parentheses is what we factored out, this 2x and this positive